and we're live with our 177th episode of Absolute AppSec. I'm Ken Johnson at CK Tricky on Twitter, joined by my co-host Seth Law at Seth Law on Twitter. Seth, say hi.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How is everyone today? Hey, thanks for joining us once again. Ken and I are back from the islands per se, right? Having gone to the mythical LocoMocoSec. I can confirm it does exist after like 3 or 4 years of being, crapped on for not going there. But then again, we didn't see the normal crowd that was there. So, I still don't believe that everybody goes. Anyway, outside of that, Ken and I, we had another great session of practical secure code review. Some really, really good teams and analysis of open source projects. Probably one of the best sessions that we've had, right, Ken?
Yeah, I would say the findings from the teams were incredible. Like, it was very impressive, and I think we gave them 2 hours, 2.5 hours before of breaking out to, basically build out their notes, structure out their source code review, what they're going to focus on, get their notes into ship shape before delivering them and presenting in front of everyone. And honestly, it was just incredible. I mean, like they found stuff, they documented things very, very well. Obviously, the point of this isn't to find vulnerabilities. I mean, it is like in the professional sense, but for that exercise specifically, we wanted to see that they followed the process. So not only did they do that super well, super well, but they also found some stuff. So it was cool. It's really cool, man. It's always fun.
Yeah,
always fun to see it work.
It was a really good one, right? Like I was super impressed actually with the students that were there. I mean, overall, I think there was a lot of large tech organizations that sponsor LocoMoco, and then they also send employees, and that was probably part of it. This one did reiterate to me that you and I have been doing this for a while, because it felt like all the people that were there, at least in our course, were kids basically compared to. Yeah, I'm getting old, right? That's what it boils down to. Yeah.
I had that conversation with my team, though. We were out and just hanging out after a dinner. I went to like a little local dive bar type thing, and we're just talking, and that's basically what I said to them was it's weird to be at this spot in life where you're kind of passing the torch on to the next group of folks, and they're like, wait, you still have like 20, a good 20 years at least of working. I'm like, yeah, for sure, but the technical contribution or the contributions themselves change, right? Like, it's not, and I'm not saying there's not like technical things that we do. That's obviously not the case, but what it is more of an realization that it's time to start passing along basically everything you've learned, all the experiences, all the what's in your head, what you've accrued, and giving that to other folks, and it's building them up, and that's a different. It's just a mental switch and a difference in how you, I guess, perceive, I don't know, philosophically your career, where you're at, your existence. I don't know how to say it, but it is an odd feeling when you do reach that point where you're like, oh, I'm the person that's now mentoring and building up that next wave of people. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's to be expected, right? Like, I don't know, it does kind of sneak up on us, right? Well, it definitely did, right? But then not really as well, because I think about the way we structured, especially this course specifically, was more of, hey, there's not enough people talking about this actual process. There's not people that are trying to level others up. There is a lot, and we still just see this quite a bit in the industry, as people are proving themselves, right? Quote unquote, right? And
right.
I know you and I have done that for years as well. Oh, we've got to go speak at Black Hat. Oh, we've got to go speak at DEF CON. Got to prove that we're technical enough. Yeah.
Make some videos, make some blog posts, release tools. Like I said, talk about them at conferences. do the whole circuit thing.
Yeah, which is still useful, and it's still possible, right, for anyone in their career. But it does, like, at some point it shifts to, hey, how can I share this knowledge and I can help other people as well? I don't know, right? Like, 200 episodes, close to it in it, the podcast too. Just makes you think a little bit. So,
Sure, it definitely was a period of reflection. That's for sure.
Maybe it was just sitting by, on the beach by the pool, right? Like
yeah,
that inspired it as well. Yeah, I don't know.
Gives you time to think. No, it's cool though. I mean, I like it. I like I like giving people what I don't know. Just yeah, I think it's cool to see people build them to help people build themselves up. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
And this industry has done, this career field has done obviously wonders for my life. So
Yep.
it's cool to see it have the same effect for others. So yeah, I don't know. So beyond that, like the LocoMoco scene itself too, what you mentioned, like heavy tech companies. And I think it's important to recognize that, like, two things. One is, without those tech companies, these things we don't have these, conferences, because honestly, the price of a ticket never covers the cost of building these events, right? So you need those sponsors. So that's the first thing, is go check out the sponsors for LocoMoco if you can. But the second thing is, just like, it's nice that I think a conference, one of the reasons I like AppSec Cali and LocoMoco is I enjoy conferences that you can go and learn from your peers, and also like have conversations. I mean, more equally or more as important is to have those conversations with your peers. And when you have, like, at a LocoMoco, tech companies, especially for me at GitHub, companies that are at least facing some of they may not be solving the problems the same exact way, but they are facing the same problems. Super nice to have just be in that environment, have those people speak, be able to pick their brain. And so, yeah, these smaller conferences, I think, or I shouldn't say smaller, but these more focused in scope is what I should say, more narrow in scope conferences, like AlasCon. I've been to AlasCon a while, but a few years ago and beyond, AlasCon was like that as well. So
yeah. Well, and that's, I don't know, like, as the industry grows up too, I think you'll see more and more of those niche conferences that come up, right? So this one's more like LocoMocoSec is definitely more focused on product security, right? And running security like AppSec, ProdSec within a larger organization. As a consultant, right? Like the day-to-day that I do wasn't really addressed at this conference, right? It wasn't geared towards me as a consultant, which is great, which is fine. It pushes me and my team a little bit to figure out, okay, this is exactly what our clients are actually struggling with and going through, and how can we provide value? So there's other things that we take away from it, rather than, oh, this is, the latest approach for assessing whatever, right? Like it's a different feel. It's a different, it's just a different topic, right? When it boils down to it.
And, because your problem set is oftentimes a very different problem set. And sometimes it's the same. I mean, but it's
There's, not to discount that there's a lot of overlap between the two, but I'm not managing a large set of vulnerabilities, right? Or large bug bounty programs, and, having sources that come in. I'm generating some of that content for large companies for sure, but it's just a different management aspect that I don't necessarily get involved with as much. So it was interesting, right? It was definitely, kudos to, Neil, Jim, the team over there, Ron, everybody, and Jeremiah for putting it together and having a different focus, because it's definitely needed, right?
I have to say, the one thing that did amuse me
Mhm.
was that Neil's the only person left actually living in Hawaii
Yeah,
out of all the organizers.
I know that's true.
Jim
I'm pretty
moved,
sure.
Jeremiah
Yeah,
moved.
Ron's up in Idaho somewhere. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they're all.
That's pretty that was pretty funny and amusing because I had no idea until I sat down and was chatting with Neil, and then it's like, oh, okay, interesting.
Mhm.
All right, things. A lot's happened over the last couple of years. We could say last few years. So a couple things have happened, Seth. I don't know if you've caught up with any of
Something
that,
I don't.
but
No, I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know anymore. Right. Adam did bring up that Neil won both the contests too. It was rigged, Adam. I'm pretty sure. Right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. No, I mean it was obviously the conference was also kind of getting its legs back underneath it as well. There's speaking of things that had happened over the last few years, obviously it was trying to get back to the way that it had been in 2019 when it was kind of reaching its peak. So just seeing the effort to kickstart it again was nice as well. So
Mhm.
anyways, I think one thing we were talking about is next year is like, probably try to see if we can do some sponsorship. GitHub. I mean, I know Microsoft did some sponsorship, but yeah, I think the more support the conference can get for next year, the better. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
gonna try and help out there, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I think it's exciting to see it come back together, and yeah. And also Kitten Cafe. So there was that. That was nice.
You did. How
There's a
many cats
cafe.
did you end up with? No.
None yet. Yeah, none yet. But I'm sure it's going to be two. No, yeah, there's a kitten cafe where it's like part of this rescue plan for stray kittens, and so there's like 50 small kittens, and you can get coffee and I this, but for those listening, but anyways, it was cool. It's like you get coffee, you book some time. If you want to adopt them, you can adopt them. They've been rescued and given shots and paperwork and all that stuff, so it's pretty cool. Anyways, the kitten cafe aside, yeah, it was just overall decent experience. So I don't know if you want to recap anything else about it, or do you want to kick off into our first round of news and such?
No, yeah, let's jump into news stuff, right? I did want to mention that DEF CON trainings, those signups are still available. I'm going to drop the link into the chat. So Ken and I will be teaching our secure code review course after or at DEF CON, but the trainings are actually after the conference as opposed to before the conference. And we'd love to see you there, right? That's the next public training that we have. We do private trainings as well for corporations. There's a few of those that we have scheduled and we have upcoming, but sadly we can't just allow anyone into those because they are specific to different corporations. So if you're interested in that, please reach out. You did mention LASCON. The CFP for LASCON is open. I don't we don't know if we're going to be training there or not yet. That's another one that's on our radar. But if the listeners are attending a conference and they would like to see us train at those conferences, let us know where they're at when the CFTs go open. We are open to taking this on the road and training at other places, whether it's a local B-Sides event or whatever, just like we did with KernelCon and a few of the others. Now that things are opening back up, would love to get out there and see all the listeners, bring our t-shirts, and present and teach. Anyway. Good. So HackerOne reports. This is interesting, right? If you've been watching things over the last couple of days, this has always been kind of a worst case scenario, right? I don't know how you want to describe it, right? That you have trusted individuals that actually view vulnerabilities and reports as they come into different organizations. And I've always had this underlying suspicion of, what if somebody that has this elevated level of access to these reports decides to go off and, they could do multiple things. Like they can report vulnerabilities through different avenues to see if they can gain money. They can try and blackmail, right? There's different things that can happen once these reports are actually released. But I mean, Ken, what's your impression of what happened here? But we should probably do a rundown before I jump into it too far on my opinions, right?
Yeah. So between April and June of this year, to be clear, I want to make sure that actually is, April 4th and June 23rd which is weird given that, so anyways, they had access between April 4th and June 23rd of this year. They were a HackerOne employee from my understanding here. They basically accessed various reports to then go ahead and redistribute that same report basically to other programs or to other companies to receive essentially bounty payments, which is honestly, like, I can't fathom. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I can't fathom what was going through that person's head. Yeah, I mean, there's so much. I mean, I don't, I could probably break down here, but I'm curious about your thoughts on this one. Actually, I know you have opinions for sure, because I'm still kind of just befuddled by
I mean,
money is cool,
definitely,
but that's not a lot of money for the long term of your career, even if that's like the one thing you are incentivized by. But anyways, yeah, it seems strange.
It's a very career limiting move for sure, right? Like, you've been given this trusted access. I mean, there's a lot of in moment, right, decisions that were made here by this individual, that they were taking these reports and trying to submit them to other programs to get paid. And I don't know if I saw an actual value of anything that was paid out. I know there were some reports that they were doing some analysis there, but kudos on HackerOne for actually releasing it and being like, hey, we had an internal attacker. I mean, this is this goes back to the whole threat model discussion that we have, and the crocs and socks, of security type stuff, is that you have malicious employees, and you have individuals that will do things contrary to their own best interest, and you have to protect against that, or you have to have the ability to research and recover from those sorts of attacks. Just because you've done a background check on someone doesn't mean that they can't turn bad, or they can't do something unintended or unnecessary, or try to gain more money, like game the system to get for more money, which feels like what was happening here, right? The employee decided that there was a way for them to take advantage. It's almost like they're taking advantage of arbitrage, right? Hey, we see this vulnerability here. I have the platform. I can see that these other companies are using that same tech. Why don't I just submit using another site or another account and get that money back? And yeah, let's see how this one plays out.
Resubmitting duplicate vulnerabilities to the same customers for personal gain. Yeah. Wow. And this person was the first level triage, which I don't personally much care for, the outsourcing of your first level triage to any platform. I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but we tried it, and it just, I don't think you get the level of, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it. The nicest thing I can say is I just don't think you get the personal sort of approach that somebody who works for a company is going to give to the researchers that that first level triage won't. I mean, they're just kicking. That has no bearing, obviously, on this particular incident. I'm just saying, as an aside, I don't really like to care for that first level triage stuff, like outsourcing that. Having said that, so to understand this better, this person does first level triage. They resubmitted, which is just honestly, I kind of question this person's intelligence, honestly. So they're resubmitting duplicate vulnerabilities, the same vulnerabilities, back to these companies, and then trying to do that for profit and thinking they're not going to get. This explains why they were there for 2 months or had access for 2 months. Because I mean, It's not going to, that kind of scheme is not going to last. Hey, listen, if you're going to break the law, at least be fucking smart about it, right? Like, which they were not. So,
so it makes you wonder if there are people that are getting away with this, right? Like, you know,
I just saw the one comment. I almost spit out my coffee. Bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for him.
Yeah. Obviously,
it
it's worked out really well. I know. Yeah.
Makes absolutely no sense. But like, I will say, to HackerOne's credit, they're like, our internal logging monitors. This is their words, by the way. Our internal logging monitors employee access to customer disclosure for regular business operations, namely vulnerability intake and triage. Analysis of this log data suggested a likely actor soon after our internal investigation kicked off. Only a single employee had access to each disclosure that our customers suspected of being redisclosed by the threat actor. So, like, man, wait. Crime. Wow.
So logging is important. Is that what you're saying?
That's actually, that is the point that I'm trying to raise here. But then I'm starting to piece together like just how piss poor of a job this person did at breaking crimes or breaking the law, committing crimes. Can't speak. Hey, it's post vacation glow. I'm a little haggard, which makes no sense. I slept for like 12 hours last night. Anyways, I'm just now kind of putting the pieces together. So, wow. So this person in a short period of time was redisclosing to many programs. Like, you can even see that as soon as somebody had said something, they mentioned in the first part of this paragraph that, like, within 30 minutes of beginning their investigation, more information came in that was like, this is definitely an internal actor, which is like, how does that happen? That means that within probably 30 minutes of someone disclosing something, they redisclose that same thing to a different program. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was even like a red herring report. That would have been hilarious, but it probably wasn't. Yeah. It's probably just like, you know, a legit report. They submitted it within this period of time, resubmitted within, like, my guess is like a 30-minute window of, you know, the original disclosure. I don't know. The more I read, I'm like, this person has no clue what they're doing. And it's like, just, anyways, that's just bananas to me.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. Yeah.
I don't think it makes me want to use a bug bounty program any less. I do think it's good that they were transparent. Like, I do obviously believe heavily in transparency for any security incident. Like, why do I still have this up, by the way? Sorry about that. Oops. For those that are listening, I had a little title screen up on the window. But yeah, no, I would say, like, I don't know, man. It doesn't change my opinion of using a bug bounty program, but definitely it's cool that they're transparent, and I like transparency, so good for them. But wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably all we need to say on that, right? Outside of make sure you have logs so you know what people are doing, right? That's
we got a guest. Saying hi.
Oh,
another guest.
Another guest.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, that's Harper, everyone.
Ask Harper what, their opinion on, this is, right? Let's see.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be very in-depth. I don't think it's going to be the answer we're looking for.
No worries.
But
cool.
Anything else on that one, or?
No, I just I always go back to this on you have to view your bug bounty program. It is a SaaS provider. It is outside the scope of your control as an organization. And so, yes, you trust Bugcrowd, you trust HackerOne, you trust the platform, but along those lines, you still have to be realistic with what's coming in and realize that there is a threat involved with them having that vulnerability information. Just like, anyone else having access to it, right? It also makes me rewind a little bit. I'm sorry if I'm discombobulated today as well, right? Like, I just feel like we're getting back into
it. Jet lag, it's jet lag, it's travel, it's a lot of extroverting that we just did for a week. It takes a lot out of you.
Even like consulting organizations, like third parties that provide, reports to you, have access to potentially sensitive data, right? Like if I find a critical issue with a company, like I'm viewing that as probably the most sensitive information that we hold as an organization, as a consulting organization, because if that gets out, if I like post that online, or some other way like that gets disclosed, my consulting org is on the hook for it, right? Which, yeah, like, I don't know. I think internally from an organization, you've just got to think through that, right? Like, what happens when, a bug bounty researcher finds a critical vulnerability? What protections do you have if they decide that they're not going to disclose it, right? That's the whole incentive of a bug bounty program, but you're also allowing that access to come in through there. And the same thing goes for any consulting org or whatever else, which is the same. I mean, it's the reason why I get hit with so many like risk assessments and third-party risk assessment questionnaires, because it is like it becomes critical data when and if we do find something.
So let me ask you this. Do you think there will be in the future a case where a consultant is double dipping, where they're submitting vulns, and then on the side they're submitting that same vuln over to a company's HackerOne or Bugcrowd?
What?
Yeah,
Bugcrowd. You mean I shouldn't be doing that? No, just kidding.
Terrible.
Terrible. No, bold move, Cotton. Yeah. I'll just copy and paste the write-up. Yeah. I mean, I would hope not, because those consultants should be a trusted org.
But
I imagine
some shitty stuff with consulting.
Yeah, I mean, you can imagine it happening, and it's not out of the realm of possibility to see that same vulnerability pop up in multiple places. I don't know though, man. It's just I think you will eventually see it. I don't know if it'll actually go public, but I think you will see it eventually.
I think that would be a harder. I think in this case, it's easier with HackerOne, where they're like, it's 2 months. We made a bad call, but we have all this stuff and like logging, and we know what they accessed, and we can go and fix things. And at the end of the day, it's, you can always refund companies or whatever, right? Like but however, when it's a consultancy doing it, man, that's a different reputation hit, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's a different reputation hit. I mean, that I would be surprised if it was like principals at a consulting company that were doing that, right?
Yeah,
probably
for sure.
Lower level,
younger, newer, more, or not younger, less experienced.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's getting dark in here. It's about to storm outside.
Yeah, I mean, because of the reputational risk that's involved, right? Like consultants' bread and butter is being able to provide services across the board. That happens once and it gets out, you're done, right? Like you just no longer can provide that service.
Yeah, it would totally nuke yourself as it would totally ruin your career for sure.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. All
right. What do we want to talk about next?
Do you want to go into do you want to do the Chinese hack? Do you want to talk about SANS top 20 or SANS CWE top 25? I'm good with either.
I actually wanted to talk a little bit about so from Clint Gibler's newsletter, TLDR Sec, the 60 RCEs in 60 seconds or something like that, or 1,000 ways to pwn prod or whatever it was, something along those lines. But it's a tale of 60 RCE in 60 minutes, 1,001 ways to pwn prod. So let me put this into StreamYard. So I'll put it up there. Well, it's on the screen, but you're not going to be able to. I'll take that off shortly because it's who's going to be writing that? But anyways, the link's there. I'll put it in our Slack as well. Just did it. Cool. Anyways, what I thought was cool. Let's go into it. So this is basically a talk where they describe, you know, all these different ways to get remote code execution using different techniques, right? Now, what's funny is I thought this was like right up your alley actually, because you deal with a lot more JSP, a lot more sort of that things that do deal with XML and SOAP and things like that, right? That's what a lot of
Yeah.
this kind of bases itself on. You do see some WordPress, if I'm not mistaken, in here. You obviously see some, like I said, you got JSP and Java. Yeah, quite a bit of different interesting things, but it's a bunch of different ways to that you know describing how to break in, right? So sometimes it's as simple as you know I can use SSRF to remotely call out and pull in like a web shell, and like so one of the examples, one of the slides talks about using. Oh, they found they found access to the logs. Inside the logs, they had like an administrative set of credentials, logged in through the administrative credentials, created a web shell file, had a, or excuse me, created really a web shell processing file, I should say, and then created a hidden form field on a HTML page that took a command, and then you could basically, you know, send your command off in that hidden form field. Have it executed by the web shell processor logic, and you have remote code remote code execution. And these are essentially, each one of these slides is sort of a story of how they did that. And I think it's, so first of all, we should probably acknowledge the actual person that wrote this, which was at the LaLuka. I'm going to put their Twitter link here in StreamYard. A second. So first of all, I'll acknowledge that person for their work. That's amazing. Nice job. Here it is. There's their Twitter handle. And before anyone says anything, yes, I'm fully aware of their thoughts about the Microsoft acquisition of GitHub. If you go through their Twitter account, it's right there. Can't miss it. So yes, before you say anything, yes, I know about it, but I don't care. Their research is really cool. So anywho, so this reads, why I think this is interesting, Seth, is it reads sort of like a lot of what we've done in pen tests and vulnerability assessments and code reviews. And yes, those are three different distinct activities, FYI, for those listening. But it's very cool. I mean, you're talking about taking things like SQL injection, like I said, XXE, so like the handling of XML content, just like even just expose sensitive log like pages that, like we were talking about this. I don't know if I think it was actually during this training course where it was like, you know, you have a page that it's built in, right, to like Tomcat or something like that, and then you can access it unauthenticated. You see the logs. The logs have like not necessarily credentials, but like sessions in the logs, because it's, you know, capturing the URLs that have been requested, and session IDs, especially with Java, seem to make their way into URLs. And the next thing you know, you're escalating from there. You know, now you're authenticated and you're just, you know, maybe an administrator, and you're going on from there, and you're escalating. And that's what a lot of this reads like. It's a really fun read. Obviously I can't cover every slide. We can't cover every slide on here, but yeah, very, very cool stuff. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to check it out yet.
Yeah, I mean, and that's my takeaway. My takeaway on it is that this is great for just becoming familiar with different approaches on how people and how consultants would go about exploiting a system. And like, it all kind of comes back to the initial discovery that we go through from figuring out what platforms being used, what versions of different frameworks are being used, and exploiting defaults that are built into those to then chain things together for full remote code execution. When it comes down to it, and we're doing a source code review or something else, we typically don't do a full, RCE attack in most of these situations, right? And that's usually just based on the scope of what we're performing and what we're trying to fix. But you'll see like snippets of, oh, it looks like there's an server side request forgery that's going on here. It'll pull data down and then execute it. Or you use a different mechanism to actually execute that, and it's chaining of 3 or 4 different vulnerabilities in order to actually execute that RCE. But being familiar with the underlying framework and technology is what really leads to most of this RCE, right?
Yeah.
I
mean, unpatched stuff. I mean, so they have takeaways at the very last, like slides 59 and 60 of this presentation. And basically, it's funny too, because it's like the same stuff that we talk about looking for in source code review. A lot of it's the similar stuff that we care about, especially when we talk about like injection bits. So they talk about string concatenation. So sorry, be super careful with, and then they list out 5 different things. So serialization, which ding, ding, ding. Absolutely. Serialization can be such a painful thing if done incorrectly, or using the incorrect serialization library. PDF. So the second one is PDF rendering. Yeah, absolutely. PDF rendering can be ripe with issues. File write and upload features. That's one we always talk about again, and there's a reason. Like this is one that's famously done.
Yep.
Yeah, just famous. Even when S3 is used, sometimes they cache. Sometimes it's the read issue, right, where it's like allowing user input to declare where the read's coming from. Sometimes it's even if everything else has been done right, sometimes S3's policy is wrong, or whatever file, Azure Blob Storage or whatever you're using. So in any case, it's sort of like, it's right. This is another area that's very concerning. String concatenations, fourth thing, string concatenations. Absolutely. Anytime you see interpolations or concatenations, and it's used to build the content that's going to be passed to the system to do some operation, there's room for confusion, right? That's ultimately what we talk about too, is that injection is just confusion. It's just not understanding the system, not understanding what was intentional and what was just variable data that is like now considered part of the command, and it shouldn't have been. It should have been just some piece of data to form the command, or variable data. And the last one, the fifth one, is stack traces. And stack traces are, again, this is something we talk about. Stack traces are in and of themselves very problematic, depending on what they're producing. So we've seen everything from, and this is within like the last year, seen everything from like debug mode on in a Django app, if you can believe it, to say like I talked about it before, where a library that once it wasn't given the proper input on one of the parameters, it dumped out OAuth client ID and secret. I'm sure you have other examples of over the last year of stack traces going wrong. It's pretty common.
I was just looking through those, like, then asking about SafeProd. I did love that too. Avoid to the maximum PHP in Java.
Yeah,
that's my favorite. I mean, the whole presentation, I think it would have been entertaining to be there and listen to him to talk about it, because he's just bolting through so many failures, right? But like just that in and of itself, I'm like, yep, right. Like we see, I have seen PHP and Java done well, but with the caveat that I've seen it done poorly so many times, it's hard to recommend that, right? If somebody's coming to me asking, hey, Greenfield, like what tech should I use to build out this application? Like, okay, you start talking about Go, you start talking about type safe languages, you start talking about, like other things, opinionated frameworks that eliminate a lot of the issues that you have in PHP and Java, right? So, ORM,
well, so that's
segmentation,
they talk about that on the second slide, right? Which is use a Golang or Rust backend, which Yeah, maybe. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. I mean, it's fine enough. And I don't think it has to be Golang or Rust, but I get the point. The point is that for it to be, pretty explicit in what it's going to be
And
performing,
limited. Yep.
and
Yeah.
limited. Yeah. Compiled into a single stripped binary. I get that. That's fine. Uh, so that one, okay, yeah, it's pretty good. I wouldn't, but I get it. The point is to just have like a really safe API on the back end. The second one is a React front end that mitigates most of the XSS. Yeah, that can work. Not always. Obviously, sometimes like take us for example. Like we've got a lot of markdown to HTML, and that's got to be rendered in React, and so it's not perfect. There are things you can do to make React even safer if you have to use like raw HTML. But in any case, like so React isn't always the right answer, but I don't, you can't, this is not the point of this slide. It's not to always, it's just like, here's some ideas, right? So yeah, that's pretty good. An ORM using the backend for every database request, mostly, I think that's fine. I think we have definitely like, if again, like we always point to, go to rails-sqli.org, rails-sqli.org, and you'll see that not every ORM is perfect for sure. In fact, most ORMs can be used unsafely, even if they have safe methods. So again, if they have safe functions, they can still oftentimes be used unsafely. So you still have to do your homework there. But I get the point is to not write raw SQL, which I think is, I think that's the point, right? I would assume.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is. Right.
Then it talks about increasing segmentation one service by minimalistic container. So I really agree with that hardcore. I love the idea of segmentation. I also like the idea of being able to, in that case.
Wait. You say that, but isn't Rails a monolith? Never mind.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
I'm just giving you crap. Right?
No, it's totally. You're right. It is a monolith. But I think more so in the sense of a network segmentation. I think in this
network
case,
segment.
and that's really the point. I think is super critical here for preventing server side request forgery. I think that's that's the big one. If you can be very specific about what a container is allowed to talk to and not allow anything else, that's amazing. That's a good start for SSRF prevention.
Yeah, and actually, you look at this list, right? And maybe we should display it really quick because it's pretty useful. But I'm looking at this, and each one of these is actually, it goes back to that discussion or that presentation that Clint Gibler has given, right, on eliminating vulnerability classes. Right.
Ignore that update button on my browser. That's just because I just got back. Okay, don't judge me. I just haven't had time. I turned my computer on right before this podcast, so
I'm pretty sure I woke Ken up this morning to do the podcast. So yeah,
he kind of did. No, he didn't wake me up. I had just woken up. I was like, oh, I gotta get up. But for those that don't know, the company gave us the entire company gave us the week off this week. So we're I probably should have said that. Still checking in on everything, so don't try anything. But no. But anyways, that's why I slept in. And that and jet lag. Holy cow. Anyways, back to the list. What were you saying?
No, so each of these, they're focused on different vulnerability classes, right? Like each of these recommendations. So he's gone through the list and he's like, oh, I'm able to do X, Y, and Z because of injection. So how do we eliminate injection? Like on the back end, first of all, the ORM stuff for SQL injection, React front end on the front for XSS, and then SSRF style stuff like segmentation, we'll eliminate that in addition to these, but they're all like focused on, if you eliminate vulnerability classes and concentrate on reducing that risk, you like an attacker, what he's done in this presentation, you have eliminated one step in the kill chain, right? Or in the exploit chain, the ability to execute this RCE. And that's all that it really takes to eliminate like that critical risk in your application is, taking away that one avenue to get through it. And it does take this systematic approach, but eliminating those vulnerability classes by implementing these sorts of recommendations are are extremely effective. That's all. That's what I was getting to there.
No, I agree. Like if those, and those should be honestly big priority, like the ones we talked about, like SSRF, SQL injection, those should be high priority for sure. In terms of prevention. I mean, I think the last few here the last few, like 5 through 7.
Yeah.
I could see, yeah, I mean, definitely a WAF isn't like the worst thing in the world for sure. I mean, 6 is like, dude, yeah, come on. Please update things. You absolutely have to update things. Like that's a big one. But it can be difficult at scale, which we obviously saw when everyone had to upgrade struts, or everyone had to, react to log4j or whatever. There were definitely some issues there with reacting and just even knowing what assets were what, right? Like I think that was probably, I would have to guess anyways, a realization for a lot of companies was probably, hey, we don't really have a great, I guess what I'm trying to say is you need to have great asset inventory skills or experience or abilities or whatever abilities in order to also then update things and make sure that they're correctly updating as well. And then the last one, that makes sense. Security audits, security trainings. I mean, I think they should be, if I'm giving my personal opinion here, I think security audits should be very pinpointed on exactly what you need. And I think you need to give your auditors, you need to set your auditors up for as much success as possible, because that's only, I mean, it sounds obvious, but yeah, you're not going to get a great assessment if you're not willing to share code, or you're not willing to give them, say a staging environment to test against as well, or, God forbid doing that stupid shit where people like plant backdoor code and then, or plant some, known malicious code, and then they're like, oh, did they catch it? Stuff like that. But more importantly, I think scoping, giving somebody, I think the worst thing you can do is giving an overly broad scope. Like keep it very well scoped, know exactly what you're trying to get out of your security audit, and not try to say like, here's my whole website, make sure it's secure. That's, problematic. I mean, obviously I'm painting in broad strokes, but yeah. And then security training, again, I think training has to be, what are you looking for your developers? You want them to be good at threat modeling? Do you want them to do peer reviews and look for secure code flaws? Do you want them to have a general knowledge base about the OWASP top 10 or some general web security stuff? Or, are we talking, no, we want to go in the weeds on, how to securely handle file uploads and downloads. And, it's just, honestly, you have to figure out what you're looking for and be very specific in it. So these are all pretty good recommendations with some caveats.
Yep. Well, and I don't know. I like, how many times, I don't know if you get this question often recently, but I have a tendency, because I'm dealing with a lot of startups that are trying to build out some sort of application security or prod security program. And that's always the initial question is, where should I start? Right? Like, what's the first thing I should do? And I mean, this list is, a safe place to actually, is a good list of recommendations, just in general, like, because it does feed back to, hey, you have an inventory of, what's on your, like, what applications you're actually producing, what software you're using. So you have some sort of policy that's there. You're putting in some tech, right? Like, it's a multi-pronged approach. But in general, it's also abstract enough that you can apply it as needed, right? Based on what your threat is and based on what what the company needs are, because there is no one size fits all approach. But there just never will be. So,
yeah, no, yeah, that's why we have jobs. Yeah. That's why I have a job, right? It's not. Yeah, if you could just put it in a box and make it easy, it'd be great. But it doesn't exist. So,
yeah,
cool, man. I don't know what else you want to chat. We have got a couple other articles we can chat about. The China hack is crazy. That's wild to me. Like, but honestly, like the more I've read, the more I'm like, I feel like this is just some random person who was, doing this the China lab thing, you know, where we have our China labs, and just like found that they could access that information. It feels accidental. It feels like they were messing around. But anyways, what, like, have you read anything up about any of all this and whole 1 billion people's information being stolen? Or have you seen what kind of information was actually being stored about them? I think that might even be more concerning. That's honestly.
I haven't dug into it that much, right? So like I'm pretty noob walking into it, right? Like I know it's gone on the last couple of days, but with jet lag and everything like that, I haven't dug that much into it outside of, oh crap, it looks like a bunch of data was leaked and somebody got access to it. How they
so it was the Shanghai police database.
Yeah.
If that helps clarify. And the person that stole the records, several billion records, wants to wanted 10 Bitcoin, which I feel like you could shoot higher. And also you should realize how quickly Bitcoin's value is going down right now. So, you know, I don't know if I maybe ask for more, but anyways, I mean, if you're gonna commit, you know, crime,
go all in.
Go all in, man. You know, they want $202,000. Anyways, I guarantee you, someone would be willing to pay more than 200. A private person would be willing to pay more than $202,000. Anyway, whatever. Money aside, so what the weird thing about this data though is it has fields in them, you know, about an individual that refers to things like their like stuff getting delivered to them, their food order details, a bunch of creepy shit like that. And man, it's just I'm like, okay, yeah, another breach, more information stolen. This time stolen out of China, which was interesting, I think. But man, it's more like, why is this information, you know? I mean, I think we know why, but it's just creepy, the level of surveillance, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well,
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the one. Well, did you post the article? Like,
I didn't. Yeah, geez, I should probably do that, huh?
Which one are you looking?
There's
at?
2 articles actually. So there's the first one, which is like kind of this happened, and then there's a second one, which is like follow up with more information. So let me go and find this little bit here. While we're doing that, okay. First one is on Bloomberg. All right, so this is the first one, and let me post it in our regular Slack.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway reading through that first article initially was that the breach was far more straightforward. It appears a software developer left an access key visible in an online code repository. And they just downloaded it using the access key. So it wasn't even really like it's credential theft, but it's basically, oh, whoops, I posted my Alibaba Cloud or whatever, like access key to a forum or to GitHub or something like that. Somebody found it and pulled down the data, right? That's
So, no.
Yep.
Right. So which is like, it felt like, I said, it felt like somebody was just playing around. It like somebody was just kind of, you know, looking for stuff, seeing, you know, kind of like I said, using the old China lab, right, to proof out whatever they were messing with, and they came across this. But super interesting.
That's, you know, most file and data services have something that's export data or backup data, right? Like that is functionality that exists. So if somebody gets access to your account, it's gone, which is, it seems like that's exactly what happened here. But I don't know, is that what that second article?
So the second article just kind of talks a little bit more about, you know, so they were basically saying, it was leaked by sloppiness, not hacking. Did I post the second article? Hold on. No, I don't think I did. So there's a second article. Both are on Bloomberg, which is not where I normally get my source of my news sources, but for today it'll work. The second one's just kind of saying it was about sloppiness, which I assume refers to leaking of the. Well, hold on. This says it's likely the information was extracted by accessing a poorly configured server. So wait, which one was it? Now I'm confused because I actually can't see that. Hold on, let me see. I can. All right, cool. So yeah, it's interesting. Huh. So there's information posted online indicates the database was run by the Shanghai police, hosted on a server operated by Alibaba Holding. So they're Ali Cloud. There's no suggestion that Ali Cloud is responsible for any security vulnerabilities. Hold on.
Some of that second article is repeated from the first one, right?
Yeah.
Which is why they're just like, again, this is why Bloomberg isn't the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking for other articles now to give more information. Another sample set include police case records. All right.
Yeah.
So where did you see? Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just looking at other places, like how much we're actually going to get on how it happened. What was your question? Where did I see the?
That's exactly what my question was.
It was. I mean, it was in there basically in that. Where was it at? I'm looking here. Yeah.
I mean, even as of yesterday, they say the true scope of the leak is unknown.
No one's paid the 10 Bitcoin yet, right?
And as of yesterday, they say it's not clear yet how the hacker infiltrated the police database.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's speculation, like, that, they found a key, we're able to get in, and like, I don't know if it was an SSH key or something like that, or if it was some sort of Ali Cloud, access key that they then used to access either the server or the database that was associated with it. Because they say, but may have been hosted on a server operated by Alibaba Holding Group Limited's Ali Cloud. Yeah, so I mean, it's still early
due to days. A bug in an Elasticsearch deployment by a government agency.
Ooh, really?
That's what this one I'm reading right now says from the CEO of Binance.
The CEO of Binance? Why is the CEO of Binance commenting on this? Okay.
They're cool. Threat because they've got threat intelligence element to them.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Getting delivery addresses and instructions for drivers, personal information, phone numbers, crime. According to the Wall Street Journal, 5 people confirmed that all the data, including case files, hard to find from any other source in the police. China's vowed to improve data privacy. Yeah, okay, cool. That's where I go for my privacy. So anyways, not a ton of information, but here's another article in case anybody wants to read up more. So I'll just be interested to follow this one, see where it goes, what else comes of it, and what we learn. But in the meantime, it's just more of like, oh, wow, this is just, I don't know. Again, I wasn't so interested in the breach so much as like what was in the breach, I think is the part that, again, like, I think we all have in the security community, especially have a growing concern about, the treatment of human beings and how technology is playing a part in that, and are monitoring it, obviously. Anytime stuff like this comes up, I know I'm interested.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I definitely am. And the scope on this one is huge too, right? A billion citizen records is like, I mean, that's what, 20% of the world's population, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's at this point, it goes back to, it always goes back to that discussion we had with Jerry. Is it Jerry? Back in the day, on like if a breach happens, does anyone care anymore? Right? Like, the scope has to be huge, right? A billion, like we're talking about it because it's a billion records. If it was only a million nowadays, like that happens so often that it's
That
just
would
a
be a
drop in
blip.
the bucket. Yeah. Like it
No
wouldn't
one would
even be,
notice.
yeah, no one would notice. It would not be all over the news. But we have large
Honestly,
organizations
if
that
it
have
was a
access to that
million,
data. Yeah.
if it was a million of crypto stolen, no one would care,
Yeah,
right? If it
exactly.
was,
No.
I mean, honestly, if it was 20 million, people probably wouldn't care. It has to reach like the hundreds
There,
of millions for people to care. Anyways, it's
it's
breaches,
just,
whether it's crypto
yeah.
or personal information, are just prevalent.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, we'll watch this one to see, right? Like it's obviously like being in the, Western world is a little harder to, parse that data from what we have. But I'll put an intern on it, right? Like we'll see if he can decipher any of the data that's coming out of it. So, yeah, I don't know, man. We have been going for like an hour, so we'll go ahead and call it for today. But any last thoughts before we close things out?
Yeah, let's end it on a positive note. What was your favorite? What was your favorite tour or place you visited in
Ooh,
Oahu while we were there for LocoMoco?
on Oahu. Yeah. Um, the comment that just came in. Before I get to that, it is so alarming how many crypto wallets or NFTs are emptied and just doesn't hit the mainstream. Yeah, it is. Like if you're watching that space at all, you see it happen daily, right? Like if not weekly, that there's small scale attacks going on and stuff being drained and malicious crypto contracts and all sorts of stuff that happens that never gets reported on. So yeah. Anyway, as far as Oahu goes, right? Like, I would say like the North Shore, getting up there to a little bit out of the city. Honolulu is definitely a big city, right? So there's advantages there from a food perspective and just the options. Like we had some amazing food while we were there, but as far as like beach, what you think of as Hawaii, getting up to the North Shore, watching the surfers, and actually going around like the east side, it was pretty incredible just to enjoy the ocean and the kind of that aloha spirit, whatever you want to call it, that's up around there. I don't know. What about you? Outside of the cat cafe, right? What did you like?
Yeah, you're right though too. Like when you're in the city, it's like it's a city. It's hustle and bustle. People are. I mean, I had a couple experiences where people were straight up rude, like as if it was New York City. It was basically New York City next to a beach, right?
Yeah.
And then you get up to North Shore, and it's totally different. It's more of like you said, what you expect, or what you would expect traveling to Hawaii. It's more relaxed, stuff like that. Gosh, I wasn't prepared for you to ask me that question. Yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, Pearl Harbor probably just from a historic perspective, I guess. But North Shore would be like really neck and neck with it. North Shore was same. I like North Shore a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a ton of time over there. I know you had a little bit longer, but those couple of days of just exploring along the coast and, different like beach parks and yeah, it was good. It's good for the soul to get away, to take a little bit of time, right? Like, and I try to remember why we do these things. Yeah.
Let me give everyone a pro tip. If you do visit Oahu and you are like, I want to go to the Dole Plantation, go there to get a photo out front of it and then leave. There's nothing else there for you. I honestly, I don't know what else to say. Just get a photo out front of it, maybe go buy a pineapple inside and you can leave.
And then call it good.
That's what I would say.
we commented on this because it was like we drove past the Dole Plantation and there were huge lines and buses and like all sorts of people. We're like, yeah,
for nothing, man.
We can see the fields of growing pineapple. All right, we know how pineapples grow. That's all we needed, and we just kept driving past, so I couldn't figure out why why it was a thing. But whatever, to each his own.
I did the
right?
train. I did the maze, which isn't a maze because a maze has one entrance and one exit, and this is like walking around in shrubs in the broad daylight when it's 90 degrees out. Anywho, I would just say, feel free to hard pass on that one and just get your photo and move on. So, and also like well, whatever. I'm not gonna go on. But yeah, that's just a pro tip for anyone out there. But yeah, I think like to your point, North Shore is probably where you want to go to. Yep. So have a car if you visit, get a rental car.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyways, enough tourist advice from us.
Welcome back to Absolute Tourism with no. Yeah. I don't know. We'll be back next.
I think.
Yeah, maybe not next week, or we may do.
We might shuffle the schedule around for the next couple of weeks, but we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got some trainings that are ongoing and some other stuff that's popped up. But we will record. We'll get some people on. I know Logi wants to come back on as well and talk about some threat modeling stuff. So maybe we'll let him and Brian run one and just go for it. So, but yeah,
let's reach out to Brian.
Yeah. If you have anything that you would like to talk about, please jump into the Slack channel. We got a bunch of good, smart people in there that are, smarter than we are. So, ask your questions. But if you have specific topics or specific guests you'd like to see on the show, reach out to us. Otherwise, we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the interactions. And we'll talk to everybody soon.
Thank you.
All right. Ciao.